Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, it's National Bald is Beautiful Day.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. I believe that's every day around these parts.
Shaved is more beautiful. And then, you know, it's been 20 years that I've been trying to get you. You're not really bald if you got this, scruff on the side. You're not really getting
that's
bald.
Actually how baldness is defined. You know what I'm really right now?
What?
I'm really hot right now because the air conditioning in my house is out.
Mine too.
I'm really hot.
Welcome back to Washington, D.C.
Hot.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Chiefs beat the Browns, the Steelers beat the Bills, and the NFC West beats everyone they play. But we begin today with the New Orleans Saints without Drew Brees, stomping on the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers, 38-3. Jameis Winston threw 5 touchdown passes and no interceptions for the Saints. MVP Rodgers threw no touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and then watched from the bench in the fourth quarter. Wilbon, was this more of a statement by New Orleans or an aberration by Green Bay?
I don't believe in statements, and I care about one thing from this game. I care about the Green Bay Packers and the hot soup they appear to be in right now. And maybe it's an aberration, because whenever historically Aaron Rodgers says, relax, people, there's a next week. He's right. He's right all the time. And he has deserved the benefit of the doubt like nobody else except Tom Brady in pro football. However, to quote my friend Stephen A., I got to wait and see on this one, Tone, because the way the offseason played out with the coach and the president making more trips by air, private jet, out to visit Aaron Rodgers. Then they had bonding sessions back in the Cheesehead land. I don't know what this means, but the drama is visiting Green Bay and the Packers for one of the few times in recent history.
So I want to go to New Orleans first, because New Orleans has been a very good team for a very long time. And I sat on this set for weeks and weeks, and I said to you there should be no quarterback controversy in New Orleans.
You did.
Because Jameis Winston is a true starting quarterback. And he's not going to throw 30 interceptions for Sean Payton, because Sean Payton will design an offense that perfectly suits him. And that is what you saw. And so this could be, on some level, a statement game by New Orleans.
Yeah.
But you are correct. The larger issue is Green Bay. The larger issue is that Aaron Rodgers stunk.
Ooh.
He threw for 133
like never
yards.
Before.
And I will tell you this. I have wondered throughout all of training camp, and I wonder now if his heart is with this team in Green Bay or he's just counting the days to leave.
No.
I know he doesn't like the coach. I know he doesn't like the general manager. And Mike, what's worse is I wonder if this bleeds over to the rest of the team. And they wonder about Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
So maybe this is an aberration, and maybe next week at home against Detroit, Aaron Rodgers will be great. But even at the end of the game, Mike, to show you what he thinks of Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur said after the game he called the loss humbling, and he said it was an absolute embarrassment. You know what Aaron Rodgers said?
It was.
He saat, I'll let him use those words. And I'll use it's just one game. He did everything but, as you suggested, say relax. So they're not on the same page at all right now.
The cure-all for everybody is a visit from or to the Detroit Lions. And Aaron Rodgers knows that, and the Packers know that better than anybody over the last 90 years. So, we're not going to overreact, not on this show, not yet. Week 1 featured 2 heavyweight matchups in the AFC. In the early one, the Steelers topped a Bills team that had huge expectations entering the season. And in the late game, the Chiefs battled back from 9 down in the fourth to beat the Brownies. Tell me who had the bigger win, Steelers or Chiefs?
So on first blush, I would say it is the Steelers, because although the Steelers last year started out 11-0, they disintegrated by the time of the playoffs. And Ben Roethlisberger, much like Cam Newton, could not throw the ball 10 yards down the field. So for them to go to Buffalo and beat the emergent team, the team that everybody says has a chance to knock off Kansas City and go to the Super Bowl, so that is a big deal. And by the end of the game, Roethlisberger was throwing the ball pretty well. But, Mike, I believe in 7 or 8 weeks when we look back on week 1, we will say that Kansas City's win was bigger. Because Kansas City was on the ropes. Kansas City was down by a lot through this game. They're down 12 points. All right, down by 12 points in the third quarter, down 2 scores in the fourth quarter, and they came back Mahomes led them back. They came back and they won the game flat out. They beat a team, again, a team that everyone says is emerging this year. Big win for Kansas City.
Yeah, but Kansas City's at home. Kansas City does this every week. They take a nap early in the game. They get down double digits, and they come back. They were down 22-10 at the end of 3. That's what they do. And Mahomes goes down the field to the cheetah, and there's a lot of drama around it. And but no. That's a regular routine. Oh, it must be a Tuesday. This is how Kansas City does what it does. The Pittsburgh Steelers, all summer I had to hear how the Steelers were done, how Big Ben is done. And then they're down 10-0, Tony, at the half, and it looks like, oh, my God, they could be done. And they are on the road. They're not at home with 77,000 adoring fans like Kansas City. The Steelers are playing in Buffalo, and you're right. They are the sexy pick. If you're not picking Kansas City, you're picking either Cleveland, but more so Buffalo. And, Tony, I know Ben didn't have a huge day, 18-32 for 188 and a touch. He didn't have to. The Steelers have other ways to win games when the Steelers are any good. Defense, running the ball, special teams. The Steelers win was much more impressive.
So perhaps I didn't make myself as clear as I should have.
Okay.
Because I like Cleveland and I like Baker Mayfield. You know the last time they went 1-0 in an NFL season was 2004. 2004.
17 years
Mike, they had to win this game.
No, they
Mike,
didn't.
they were up 8-0. Wait a second. They're up 8-0. They're up 15-3. They're up 22-10. They're up 29-20. If you don't close, Mike, if the enduring image of that game is Baker Mayfield smashing his hands on the turf, having a tantrum because he threw an interception, that's a bad loss for Cleveland, maybe even more than a good win for Kansas City. Yes, it is.
They're in Kansas City. Come on.
They didn't close. They didn't
They're not
close.
ready yet. Take some time.
They didn't. When are they going to be ready, Mike? 2028? The NFC West
24.
Went 4-0 yesterday. No other division did that. Wilbon, one of your many domiciles is in this division, so I know you pay attention.
Yes, I did.
Which NFC West team had the most impressive victory, in your opinion? Arizona, San Francisco, Seattle, or the Rams?
You know who had the most impressive win. The Arizona Cardinals went on the road, and they kicked butt, all right? Kyler Murray, 4 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing. DeAndre Hopkins, 2 touchdowns. Christian Kirk, 2 touchdowns. Chandler Jones, 5 sacks. This was a prolific day. One of the great opening days in the history of that franchise, which did start in Chicago, by the way. Tony, it's the Cardinals. I don't want to hear about the Rams because the Rams beat just a team with really, a coach who now looks downright incompetent, okay? The Chicago Bears last night, incompetent. The only thing he did well was handle the rookie quarterback situation with Justin Fields. I thought he did that well. The 49ers almost blew a game in Detroit. Come on, Seattle was impressive. But don't tell me about the Rams. The Rams beat a team that really looks like a 4-12 team, the Chicago Bears. Right now, that's what my team looked like.
Here would be your choice. You could listen to me, or you could get up and walk off the set for a while and have a sandwich, because indeed I'm going to talk about the Rams.
I'm sure you are.
Because again, I sat here, and as soon as the trade, Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford was made, I went on this very show, and I said to you, Matthew Stafford will be the MVP and the Rams will be in the Super Bowl, and you laughed at me then, and I suspect you are laughing at me now.
I'm still laughing.
By the way, Jared Goff had a very good day, actually, for Detroit. But he didn't have this good a day, what Matthew Stafford had. 20 of 26, 321 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 2 touchdowns of 50 yards plus. And the Bears, I think, have a good defense. And by the way, the star of that game was SoFi Stadium. That place is beautiful. I think all the teams in the NFC West did well. I'll counter what you said about San Francisco, because San Francisco was up 38-10 on the road. And then the Lions made a spirited and sort of weird comeback, and they got close enough to bite the kneecaps of San Francisco.
They did.
But San Francisco on the road with Jimmy Garoppolo playing. Seattle beat a playoff team. Arizona, you're 100% right. They beat a real contender on the road. You're 100% right. That's a game you circle in a notebook and you say they were great. But I'm sticking with the Rams.
Okay, you can stick with them. They beat the Bears, really. They beat a team that doesn't even know what his quarterback is.
Let's take a break. Coming up, should anyone still doubt Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase?
And how does Oregon's win over Ohio State, the Ohio State, shift the college football playoff picture? You know how for 100 years the Bears' problem has been quarterback? The Bears' problem
Yeah.
for the last 8 years has been head coach because we haven't had a good one.
Yeah.
And now we got one that appears
So
to
you
be
don't
really
think
bad.
it's mail time where you dump your issues into our laps? You expect us to solve them? Really? Let's see what's first. I don't go to the producer. I go to the box. Did Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase answer all the doubts in your mind?
I'm going to be real short on this. They answered nothing. They answered no doubts. They play for the Cincinnati Bengals, not the New England Patriots. The only time the Bengals can answer doubts in my mind are in January. That's it. They can't answer anything in September. They can't even answer anything in December. This is great the way they played. It was great to see Burrow back. I mean, Jamar didn't drop anything that I noticed yesterday. I watched quite a bit of that game. January, Tony. That's when you can come back to me and ask me about the Bengals.
They answered all of my doubts as early as they could answer them, which doesn't mean there won't be doubts after game 4, but they answered them right now. Joe Burrow showed coming back from injury that he can be an elite quarterback in this league, as he was at LSU when he won the national championship. Jamar Chase showed that the ball isn't too big and the lack of stripes on the ball doesn't bother him, and I believe he scored a touchdown, and they could be a real combination. And that's important because when they were at LSU in one season, 20 touchdowns. Burrow to Jamar Chase, 20 touchdowns. Most important to me, Mike, they won a game. They got tied at the buzzer on a 53-yard field goal, and they persevered in overtime, and they won that game. That's not what Cincinnati normally does. So me personally, I think they look pretty good for who they are.
A week from today, I'm going to remind you of this. When the Bengals are licking their wounds from losing to the Bears, all right, in Chicago, a Bears team I don't think much of right now. They'll lose next week, and you're saying they answered questions in 1 week. They are 4-12.
4-12.
One of their four will be over Cincinnati next week.
Number 3 Ohio State was upset at home by number 12 Oregon. Was this more about the Buckeyes or the Ducks?
Well, last week, because I remember what I said last week, and I'm going to make you remember what you said next week. I said I thought that Ohio State was going to be okay, that they were going to be really good. And last week's close game, it didn't mean all that much, but I appear to have been wrong. I'm going to pin a lot of this on Ohio State. I'm not going to bash Oregon. I'm not going to be one of those people that bashes everybody in the Pac-12. I'm not doing that. But maybe Coach Day and the Buckeyes are not quite as good as they thought they were going into this season with the way they played Saturday against Oregon State. At home, Tony.
Yeah, so Oregon impressed me. Oregon became the first Pac-12 team since 1990. That's 31 years to beat a ranked team in the top 5 on the road. And I was one of those people and have been a basher of the Pac-12. And yet I watched UCLA beat LSU, and now I watched Oregon beat Ohio State. Ohio State gave up 249 yards rushing yesterday. The week before against Minnesota, they gave up 200 yards rushing. They lost at home. They hadn't lost at home in 23 games. I agree with you that the problem there could be Ohio State at this point.
Could be.
Last one.
Bigger deal at the U.S. Open. Raducanu winning or Djokovic losing?
Tony, Djokovic losing, and therefore losing out on a chance to win the calendar Grand Slam with Mr. Rod Laver sitting right there. That's a bigger story. That's an international, big-time, people who don't even pay attention to tennis for the last 40 years and go, oh, yeah, Rod Laver. But the more important, the more complex, the more nuanced story is Fernandez and Raducanu. I mean, not just the match. I mean, the match itself was astounding. And the way those two women played was astounding. And Raducanu winning 10 matches because she was a qualifier and not losing a set, 20 straight sets taken. Astounding. But even more important than that, Tony, and you and I talked about this on your podcast at length this morning, is the state of women's tennis, the fragility in a lot of ways of women's tennis. They're so young when they come up. 14, 15, 16 years old. We don't know that we'll see them play each other again. We don't know if they're going to hold up under the pressure, the scrutiny, a lot of it unfair. And that makes me sad that we don't know what's coming with them. We'd like to know we're going to see them, like Federer and Nadal play each other for 20 years, and we don't know that because of the pressures that operate on these young women. That's the more important story today.
What Raducanu did is completely unique. No qualifier has
Ever.
ever won a major.
Yeah.
You list the things about going 10 matches and winning all the sets. She was ranked 338th in the world before Wimbledon. Somebody thinks 337 women in the world were better than her.
Yeah.
There was an amazing thing that she did winning this. But the bigger story is Djokovic, because he was looking for tennis immortality in front of Rod Laver, right there to win the actual Grand Slam. And not only was he beat, he was beat in straight sets. He was beaten every which way you could be beaten and denied his immortality. So in the shorter term and maybe the longer term, Mike, that's the larger issue.
By the way, you think he's
We've
got
had
one more
enough of your
shot?
issues.
You think he's got one more shot
Let's
at it?
take. He will. He'll have 2 years of it, but we'll see. Let's take one last break, but still to come, your boy Urban Meyer has a tough NFL debut.
Yeah. And your Washington football team